The work is all of the work you invest, your time, which is the most precious thing, all of the work that you invest in trying to forge genuine connections, a genuine interest with
Yeah.
people who you want to work with and who inspire you.
Yeah.
And I think that's not even just in film, that's in life. That comes back. Those types of actions
Yeah.
come back. I don't want to say that's the secret to my success because it's not a secret. I think, can I be an asshole? Yeah. Can I be overwhelmed? Yeah. Do I have every aspect of human failure and success within me? Sure, I do. But it's also recognizing the mission. And that means treating people as kindly as possible with humor and love. And that has to translate somehow into the business as well.
Hey there, bold ones. Today on the podcast, I have Seumas Sargent. Seamus is a friend of mine. He's an actor who is killing it at the moment. He was my agency brother, but he has moved on to bigger and better things. And I am so excited to talk to him. So, Seamus, welcome to Act Bold. I'm so happy to have you on. Finally, we've been like doing
Yeah,
all
good
these
morning.
near
Thank you.
miss. Yeah. So I know you're just coming off this shoot. You're shooting for The Head, which is being filmed in Spain. You sent me some amazing pictures. So, Seamus, you started out not as an actor, but as a member of the Blue Man Group. When were you doing that? And you're from Boston, right? So when were you doing that? Was that, I'm trying to think, 2006, 2007?
Yeah, I was there. I was super fortunate because the Blue Man, as a theater show, Blue Man is pretty well known in the United States. And I had seen it when I was in college and much later on in Europe. I had started a rock band and I was touring with a couple of guys from England, and my wife to be was on vacation with her parents in Portugal. And back then, when everyone had these little Siemens touch phones or whatever they were without smartphones, she sent a text
Right.
message saying, "Hey, Blue Man Group is opening their first international show. I saw it in the newspaper here in Portugal, and they're casting all over Europe, and you should try it." I thought, well, that sounds cool. I play drums, so I tried it and I did one audition. And then a few weeks later, got a call to go to Berlin. I did the audition in Amsterdam and then I went to Berlin. And that was a process of like 2 or 3 weeks. And eventually the group kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And they sent a few of us to New York to train and do the show. And then I was very fortunate to be one of those guys that opened it up. And that was 2004.
Did you ever play in Boston? I ask because I took my son to see it when he was like 10, 9, 10. So that would have been around 2007. So I wonder, was that you?
In
Did you work
2007,
in
we had
Boston in the Blue Man
Uh,
Group?
I I did. I worked, because my extended family is living in Boston, and I was very fortunate that that theater, the Charles Playhouse, invited me to do coverage. But I don't think that was till like 2012 or 13 or so. In 2007, we had opened in Amsterdam, so I was in Amsterdam that year.
Okay. Okay. I just
Yeah.
think life is so funny, right? Our paths cross and we don't even know it sometimes. Right.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
to put it in
Yeah.
perspective, a quick anecdote. I had met my wife in Amsterdam in 1998 and as an exchange student, and got the job years later with Blue Man Group in 2004. While we were on the road, I was in Berlin. And then in 2007, it just so happened that in that year, Blue Man Group opened for 8 months in Amsterdam. And my wife and I moved back to Amsterdam after years of being on the road. And we had our son together in Amsterdam. He was born in the city that I had met her, even though we weren't really living there. We were only there for the show. So that was pretty
Oh,
cool
wow.
in
That's
terms of small
romantic.
world.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to know is why you are doing so well. So tell me. It's not, I mean, from the outside, it looks like you just keep getting like one amazing thing after another. Wait, I have to just read off some of the things that you've done. It's The
Oh,
Sea, German Genius, The $1 Billion Code, Talma, Finland, Spy City, Point Break, Hello, Munich Games, and now you're doing The Head. So
mhm.
let's talk about that. I know a big part of your success is down to your networking. And I really want to get into that because I mean, you're first of all, I think so many actors are really intimidated by putting themselves out there. And you're not a trained actor. You're obviously a very talented actor, so people are hiring you again and again. But so what I love about that is that you didn't let it stop you. So many actors are like, they just get frozen by things. So first, maybe let's talk about the mindset first, and then move into like the things that you've done to actually move your career forward. What do you think?
Sure.
What do you think gives you
Well,
the
first of all, thank you for the online accolades here. I don't want to call it imposter syndrome, but a lot of
they're
the
earned?
time you fall into things. I'll say this: if I could issue a colossal wave of gratitude to Blue Man Group for anything, it would be that the show is founded on the idea that three is the smallest number you can have to have a group to ask questions and create and perform in a group. Four is a group, five is a group, but two is a pair and one is solo. And the principle in Blue Man Group is that there is no star of the show. There is no one singular ego that drives the show. And in the beginning, when you get to become a part of that production, you get a lot of notes over and over about the same thing that you're performing every night. And how could it be different? How could I keep getting a note that I'm pushing the tempo or pulling back the tempo? And as a drummer and an academic, I think my intrinsic response to that is recalcitrance, right? Like, why the fuck am I getting so many notes? Why are people? Oh man, I suck. I'm not getting it. Um, but what? And to jump forward, I feel like one of the blessings that I've taken with me in that is the ability to listen and to not to real. Of course, I have an ego. Of course, I have times where I'm pushing and trying to get things. But I feel like in general, what Blue Man Group imparted was, hey, it's not about you. It's about the audience. It's about the people who surround you, who lift you up, who put you forth. And within the show itself, the idea is that we're not making judgments as characters. We're just absorbing and giving back. And in this business, having been a non-trained actor, there's so many that you never stop learning. It sounds incredibly cliche, but I try to go into every conversation, into every networking opportunity as a filter, as literally as a human filter, and go, okay, what is this going to bring me? What am I going to get out of this? What are they going to get out of this? And also to, from a strictly business point, recognize how precious people's time is. You and I
Yeah.
getting in on this interview and having to cancel once or having to shift things around. People's time is really precious. And so this is a long route to get to your answer, but I feel like my personal successes in this business have really been through trying to create authentic relationships with people, especially even in places where it's party and carpets and schmoozing. I love a good party. And I'd love to raise a glass of champagne and celebrate the work that people do. But to me, if you're, Berlin Alley, a perfect example, there's so much going on. And there are certain situations where everybody knows that somebody's trying to be seen or contact somebody else. It's the world of
Right.
acting, hashtag actors life, whatever it is.
Right.
And to
Right.
me, if I have 3 hours at a party where it's madness and it's loud and people are yelling, if I have one or two solid, good connections with people who inspire me or who are doing great work or who are writing or who has failed and they're trying again, that those two or three people, sure, I didn't get to talk to everyone in the room. Fine. You know what? Because those two or three people, I had a moment with them that was something genuine and authentic. And I feel
Like a real connection.
like a real
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah.
because we're all trying to create in one way or the other. And I
Yeah.
consistently am reminded that none of this process is really about me. I feel like,
And be seen. And I know that, that's something I've known you for years now. And it's, when I'm in conversation with you, and especially, we've gotten closer over the last year, I'd say. But before, when it was a very superficial thing, I still felt seen. Like some people you meet at these industry, Berlinale, Munich Film Fest, whatever, con. And it's just, they're looking at you and they're looking over your shoulder. Who's more important?
yeah,
Who's gonna get me that next rung up, right? And I never had that impression from you. So you do always come off as being really genuine. But the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, because Blue Man Group to me it was very like a very in obviously it's choreographed and rehearsed and all of that. But it felt when I was there, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was just so well rehearsed and choreographed that that was how it felt, but it felt like there was room for spontaneity. It felt like there was room to play. And this is something I notice about you as an actor. You are very in the moment and you don't judge. It's just like if you just do these kind of fun things. And I think that that's such a great quality for an actor to have. So do you think that Blue Man Group was influential in helping you to be so in the moment, or are you just like that?
Well, again, and thanks for that, because I feel that people are important. That's why I love this job. I love the fact that we get to create these things and be in this environment. Let me try and single it down. I think I was always that person. I think I was very positive in life, lucky to be raised not always with a lot of money, but with a heck of a lot of love. And I feel like being in the moment is sure, there are times when somebody turns you off or you don't want to talk to them or whatever. And then you just politely go, okay, hey, I think we're done here, walk away, whatever. Um, I will say that one of the aspects of Blue Men when it started was that every person in the theater is important. The people who are cleaning the stage at the end of the night, those people are important. And this is maybe something that
They've
we've
got a
heard many
big
times.
cleanup to do, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I recently read this, I guess it's a quite famous book from Michael Caine, the actor book. I guess he wrote
Mm.
a couple, but
Yes, I know what you're talking
thoughts
about.
on
I can't
actors. So,
remember the
yeah.
name of it.
And but
Yeah.
basically he gives this great anecdote of working in the studio when he was not such a big actor. And he said that there were busloads of people, tourists coming in all the time to try and find the actors and get autographs. And he said that some of his big colleagues would always just be like, oh God, here we go. And they'd take off for the studio before the tourists would come out. And he would stay and he'd sign autographs even when he wasn't a big name actor. And one time he had a conversation with the bus driver, and the bus driver of the tourists said, "Hey, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to sign these autographs and et cetera." And, and that bus driver was Mike Ogilvy, who later became CEO of Disney or whatever. I better not misquote exactly, but
Oh, wow.
one
Okay.
of the big players. And I
Yeah.
think it has to come from a place not always of like, what can I get out of this person? What is their
Yeah.
position? Are they a showrunner, et cetera? But what can you give in a very small moment? Maybe you never see that person again, but years from now, it comes back to you in some way. It's a. I
Yeah,
mean, you know this
absolutely.
yourself. You're a
Yeah.
gregarious, beautiful person who loves to. You're in this interview that you would give me your time to think that I have something of value to contribute to people. It's a gift,
But
you know.
honestly, it goes kinda to what you were saying. I think everybody has something of value. I
Mm.
really do, and it's trying to find that. Where can we connect? Where can we bring value to each other? And it's not, my intention is not, let me give you some value from me. But, I think there is value in just finding someone interesting, looking for that thing that you can connect on.
This is exactly it. And I will say one thing more to your question, which you started about being successful, getting jobs, how to connect with people, et cetera. So many of us that we see on a day-to-day basis, a lot of us have fear. We have fear of public speaking. We have fear of being judged. If you're in the supermarket in Berlin and you ask somebody, "Oh, do you speak English?" "No, I don't speak English." "Ah, you already did." And we have a
Right.
lot of, yeah, a lot of us
Yeah.
have a fear of failure. But the most beautiful cinematic moments, the most beautiful moments in life that we associate with as empathetic and moving us are those moments where humans are most vulnerable and where we fail. This is
Absolutely.
where comedy,
Yeah.
call it The Office, take whatever example you want. The moments of failure on screen and off are the moments where we're learning. And it's
Mhm.
about giving each other time. And if I've had friends of ours, actors who've called and said, like, how are you getting this work? And I'm not getting any jobs. And I think, well, one, the work comes from an in move towards being awake and writing people and getting used to rejection and rejection and rejection and being okay with rejection. But here I am, I'm talking from what is now a very privileged position. I realize that, we're a dime a
But it's
dozen,
a position you've worked for, I mean, I've known you for a long time. So it's a position you've worked for and you're seeing the fruits of it. So I'd love to get into that a little bit more. So like
Sure.
what
Yeah.
yeah. Like, where does that start with you? Does it start with your research? Like, I would love to be on this show, or do you find out about do you look on like the median board? What is it? The film commission to see what's being shot and be like, oh, that could be something for me. Although I see you also do a lot of German stuff. Now, are
Mm,
you generally speaking English in the German stuff or no? In
Uh,
addition to doing a lot of English stuff.
I guess now the last few roles, I guess Hello is coming out in February. I just did The Seed, which is coming out, I think in 5 days or something. I spoke English in that. Unfortunately, and bless our day and ZAF and everybody, but unfortunately, I think a lot of the time what happens is if there's a significant English speaking role that's happening in a German series, it's going to be broadcast synchronisiert. They're going to dub it. And I've had
Right.
the opportunity to dub my own voice. I've had other situations where they say, no, we want to
No, thank
have
you.
somebody else do it. Yeah. And
Same.
okay. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are not my decisions. Um, but to go to your question, like in the beginning, when I didn't know what to do because I didn't have a network apart from Blue Man Group, I fell into this job based on necessity. We'd been touring for 12 years all around the world doing anything from rock stadiums to carnival to small theaters with Blue Man Group. And suddenly that period of life kind of ended. And the true story is that a buddy of mine asked me if I could help him with an e-casting. And I didn't know what an e-casting was. I was 37 or 38. And I went over and he said, hey, we did the casting. Put the camera up and did all that. And
That
he's like, you
wasn't
should.
Talma, Finland, was it? No.
No, this was Tatort. That was
Ah,
my first
okay. Yeah.
television.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And, and then he's like, you should try it. And I said, oh, I don't really work in TV. I'm not sure how to do that. And so I held the sides, actually held the sides in my hand. And I read them. And a week later he calls and he goes, you asshole. You got the role.
You got the role.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure. But part and parcel of the Blue Man vocabulary is say yes and see what happens,
Yeah,
you know? Um, and,
absolutely.
and so, I was standing on the set at Tatort in Vienna and they were saying like Licht, Ton und Bitte. And 2 or 3 times they had to come over and ask me if I was okay because I didn't know Bitte meant action, you know?
Right.
Um, and with Blue Man
Wow,
Group,
yeah.
a lot of like what you were talking about earlier, the spontaneity, yeah, a lot of things go wrong. Sometimes you get on stage and I mean, in Amsterdam, part of the roof flew off because it was a storm outside, or another time the props weren't on stage.
Wow.
And there you go. How do you deal with life in the framework of improvisation and not having any idea? And those are our most freaking out, like freak out, but at the same time, developmental moments as humans and actors. Okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's give it a shot. In the most professional
Yeah.
framework possible. So, the way I started getting jobs and was doing that, looking at Crew United, figuring out, oh, there's e-Talenta. I'll pay this money every year, 100 and whatever every year. Suddenly I was paying too much money every year for so many platforms and not really getting anywhere.
Right.
And you just keep going, you know?
Okay, let's break that down a bit. So you look on Crew United and you look at what,
Mhm.
like, what's in pre-production
Mm.
or what's in financing. How far back are you going?
I go back to, okay, so it started differently. I loved movies as a kid, but I do not have still to this day, and did not have 10 years ago, the cinematic, filmatic acumen, call it what you will, of who's who does what, how do things work in the business. I didn't have that then. And now, um, if a chunky job comes along or even a small job, I don't say no. I ask for the writing. I look at the script. And if it looks good and I feel like there's something with the character, of course, I'm going to go for it. In terms of finding jobs, I think a lot of us are on Spotlight. I've never, to my knowledge, apart from a couple of commercials, I don't think in the 5 years I've been on Spotlight, I don't think I've ever cast for a television or a film project through Spotlight. I don't know if that's because I'm living in
Yeah.
Germany or if I'm just not that well known.
I have no idea. That's kind of how I feel about it, though I now have a London agent. So I'm hoping that
Yeah.
that changes. So we'll see. But, it may have just been down to the agent we were with. I don't know. Do you know if the agent
Yeah.
you're with now is on Spotlight?
She is, but I've only been with, I'm with Fisher& and Partner now, and I love the
Okay, I didn't know
energy.
if you wanted to say or not.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
With Pamela Fisher, I really love her energy. She's a tireless worker in
She's
terms of
great. She's a go-getter. Yeah.
setting herself out there talking to people, making connections, and this is something that I just want to establish. I think a lot of us might be under the impression that making connections means something that is like all about yourself and what you've done. And, of course,
Yeah.
there's name dropping, all this stuff. I see when I see the process of making connections with people, it's hard. Sometimes if you're introduced to somebody who's clearly well established or an A-lister, there's a respectful way of being in that moment, like we talked about earlier, and not trying to get anything out of initial conversation. Just have the conversation, without expectation, and see what happens. And allow
Yeah.
yourself. This is coming from somebody I'm incredibly impatient as a person, um, but it's coming from a place of like, allow a moment to happen and see where that goes, and then when the time is right, establish another connection. Hey, we met back then. Are you available? Now there's something that I like. So this is maybe a little off topic of your question.
No, it's exactly what I would like to talk about.
Mm, yeah.
How
So
you go about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because I'm new with Fisher and Partner, I see, and there's also a couple of new agents working there. I see Pamela out every day, and this is maybe too private for a podcast. I don't know, but I'm getting messages from her early in the morning, like, "Hey, this and this and this is on the docket," and I like that, and
Yeah.
I don't know. We're just building our relationship, figuring that out. She knows from my side that I do read contracts. I read all 26 pages of them through and through. And if they're not in English, I translate them. I have a very sort of business-like focus when it comes to that sort of thing. And I think we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we navigate this together? Um, so yeah, great so far. Crew United Spotlight, all that stuff. She's very well aware of it. And I think with all of the European platforms that are sort of merging, and the truth is that it's expensive also to be out
Yeah,
there and put yourself out there in websites, platforms.
absolutely.
And how do you as an actor go, okay, can I consolidate all of this into one? I know that filmmakers is now together and, Schauspieler videos, all these things. Sorry, maybe I
Yeah,
didn't answer your
no,
question properly.
definitely. For me, I mean, Crew United is definitely a great research tool, especially for here in Europe, because a lot of the Europeans are well, I would say the Germans are much more into Crew United than they are into IMDb. But I've used IMDb as a research tool as well. Do you use that at all?
Yeah, you just reminded me of something that I forgot about, which is about your question. You said, how far back do you go? And now at this stage of the game, I feel like because our time is so precious, I want I want to reach out and try to work on projects that I love. So I did join IMDb as a resource. And what I will do is if I see a movie that I love, if I see a show that I love, right? Suits, Succession, whatever it is, like As It Is in Heaven. It's Kai Pollak. He's an old Swedish director. He's above 80, and I saw the movie 10 years ago. And I looked at all the fine print online of how do you get a hold of him? What is this number? This is the production house. And I called. I mean, it's in Swedish. I watched with subtitles, an indie film, obscure, and I loved it so much. And I called the number. Kai picked up.
Oh,
I said,
wow.
"Hi, I was looking for Kai Pollak." And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, Kai. Oh, oh, Kai? Yes, hello. Oh, geez. Sorry, this is Seamus. I'm in Berlin. I was expecting to get your secretary. I just wanted to thank you for the film, etc." And then I wrote to him. He gave me his address on the phone, his email address, and I wrote to him and I said, "Hey, if there's any chance in the future of ever being even so much as a fly on the wall or holding a light for your next project, I'd love to be involved." And he said, "Oh, he bless him. He said, sadly, I think I'm exiting the film business right now and concentrating on other things, but success in your career." And what you'd have to do is be proactive. Look on IMDb. I will go all the way to
Yeah.
in development. That's how far I will go. I go to in development because I know
Okay.
that something
Yeah,
it
that's what
might
I was
yeah,
getting at.
it might take 3 years, might take 10 years for a project to be there. But in those 3 years,
Right.
if you write to somebody again and again, even if you don't hear from them, or if maybe you do, if it takes 3 years for a film or a series to be produced, or if it takes 10, you and the producers and that whole constellation of people who are making that happen are going to be in a different place in 3 years, in 10 years.
Yeah.
And you have to reach out. You have to tirelessly reach out and do not wait for a casting to come to you if you want to work.
Absolutely. I
Sorry, does
so
that
agree
sound
with that.
preachy? But
So, how are you keeping track of it all? Do you have like Google spreadsheets or how do you do that? Because it's hard to keep. Do you just do a pen and paper? Wow.
yeah, but it's not.
I have tried different things from Google
How do
spreadsheets
you do
to,
it? Yeah, what do you do? Help me. What do
well,
you do?
yeah. I mean, I have like phases of being really good about writing everything down and, doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do. And then I have phases where I just don't do anything, you know? And so, and then it's trying to remember who did I have that conversation? Didn't I talk to them? Da, 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 So it's a bit, I'm trying to be more organized about it. If I'm being very transparent,
Yeah,
organization is not one of my better skills. Yeah. So, yeah, I wonder. I actually wonder if that's not something that you could outsource, like get a virtual assistant to help you with. But of course, you have to give all the information. So by the time you've done that, you might as well just tracked it yourself, I guess. So I don't know. I'm
that
trying to find
that's
the best way to do that.
yeah, that's exactly
Go
where
ahead.
I'm at this point. Pamela Fisher did say to me at one point a week ago, she's like, "Seamus, you really need a personal assistant." And I said, "Yeah, but it's exactly what you said." And I said, "Well, how do then I have to give everybody everything or this person everything, and that in and of itself is already a lot of time, I have kids, I have,
Exactly.
and yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to keep track of. I'm not very
You
good
know
at it.
what they need to do? And with AI coming on so strong now, there should be a way to for AI to see who you're writing, right? And understand what you're doing with that email and just
Yeah.
sort of immediately pull that into like a spreadsheet of networking.
Oh,
Wouldn't
that's
that be
great. That
useful?
that that's good. That has to exist somewhere, right? I mean, come on. Can you keep me posted on that? Because, yeah, I'm incredibly disorganized. It's like insurance, taxes,
Yeah, me too.
bill, fucking file, guys, everything else that's in the constant buzzing orbit of things you have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah. And
very
you have
well
two
organized.
kids and you have a wife and you have friends. I mean, it's like all these
Yeah,
things are going on, right?
yeah.
So, okay, when you reach out to them, now I'm getting into the nitty gritty of this.
Good.
Now we're
Yeah,
going
let's
to
do
talk about it.
it. Great.
So, when you reach out, how are you, what are you saying? Are you starting with a compliment? Are you starting
Hmm.
with who you are and what you've done? Is it a bit of both? Does it just depend? Do you have a
I'll say this.
formula you use?
Yeah. As a loquacious middle-aged guy, one who sometimes overdoes it with words, I would say, even on paper, I have learned to keep things as concise as possible when I'm reaching out. And oftentimes the subject of the email, if it's an email and not a call, if it's the subject, I'm very clear about what I'm referring to, but I also will change it and make it a little bit of a flair. One of my signature subject lines is greetings to bam, whoever the person is that I want to talk to, because I'll figure out first. Like I don't usually send things to
It's
info
not a
at.
generic email.
It's not
Yeah.
generic. No, I will take a little bit of time and research who exactly it is that I want to speak to, and then greetings from an American, and where like right now I'm near Almeria in Spain, and I would normally then say like, "Greetings from a Boston kid from Spain, regarding da da da," or something. Just something a little quirky
Yeah.
to get the attention. But the subject matter, where I used to write paragraphs of biography, I realized people don't have time.
No.
That's it.
Yeah.
I will now, after these years, try to use the catchphrases of the bigger things, like, toured with 10 years with Blue Man Group, does this. I'll make sure one or two or three things that are significant that I've done in the past and what my objective is. I saw that you were working on this project with
Perfect. I love it.
line
Do you leave
pictures,
like a
with
call to
photos.
action? I hope I hear from you, or not even that, because that's sort of not a very strong call to action. Do you say like, should we book a call, or how direct are you as far as that goes?
Pretty direct, but in the way that I leave the ball in their court. So I will generally finish a mail with, "Really looking forward to hearing from you," the standard, terms of endearment, and then at the end, I might say, "Is it possible to get involved in this?" And if I don't hear anything after a week or 2, I'll generally make a phone call. and follow it up and say, "Hey, this is Seamus. Sorry, I just wanted to check if you received this mail." Yeah, we received your mail. And, you know, most of the time, quite truthfully, most of the time out of every 99 mails, 99 don't respond,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
100th time, somebody writes back. And that's the process. I don't, I'm sure that other actors and other people have said this, and I know that you're well aware of this too. That's the work. The work is all of the work you invest, your time, which is the most precious thing, all of the work that you invest in trying to forge genuine connections, a genuine interest with
Yeah.
people who you want to work with and who inspire you.
Yeah.
And I think that's not even just in film, that's in life. That comes back. Those types of actions
Yeah.
come back. I don't want to say that's the secret to my success because it's not a secret. I think, can I be an asshole? Yeah. Can I be overwhelmed? Yeah. Do I have every aspect of human failure and success within me? Sure, I do. But it's also um, recognizing the mission. And that means treating people as kindly as possible with humor and love. And that has to translate somehow into the business as well. If I'm writing a mail, I might change the font on the greeting. I might change the color to pink. I might do little things that just are an added touch, you know?
Like that people
Um,
can see your personality as you're writing. I think that that's always
yeah,
really important. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And I love that. I also love that, you just take it as par for the course that you have to have a thick skin. And so many actors take things personally. I mean, I have so many coaching calls and, things like that where people are just like giving like this litany of all their wrongs and, the wrongs that have been done to them and the slights and the rejections and and it's like, get over it or get
mm,
out. If it's hurting you that much, then this business probably isn't for you because it's a business.
mhm,
And the thing I'm always, reiterating to people again and again and again, it's about you being the most you can be. Like, you being you condensed so that people get it and they're either attracted to that or repelled by it. Either way, it's great because move on, right? So that's one thing. And then I think also just I love how you are very direct. You're not afraid to say what you want. So many people, so many actors are afraid to say what they want. In order to get something, you have to put it out there. It's not a demand, but you have to let people know what you want so that if they're in a position to help you and you are a good fit for that project, then maybe you'll get it. Maybe. But at least now you have the door open. There's an opportunity. Whereas before there was no opportunity because they didn't know who you were or they hadn't thought of you
yeah,
for that or whatever. Right?
yeah. I wanted to say something to
Mm-mm.
that. To anyone who might be listening or might see this at some point, we are constantly judged and we are constantly judging. And you're right that this is the business. And is it god awful sometimes? Maybe it has been. Uh, I don't know. I'm not that experienced in it for that long, but and let's call a spade a spade. Is the business harder for women? Yes. Is there ageism? Yes. We'd be stupid not to say that these things do exist. And on some level, you might be the best person in the world, but we're still judging who's right. Do they have this look? A lot of it is based on looks. I'm off to shoot a commercial right on the tail end of this in South Africa, which I'm very lucky to have received. But at the end of the day, I know that I have to be real with myself. I see the mood boards and I go, oh, I'm not, Daniel Craig, or I'm not Tom Cruise. I don't have that classic man beauty look. But every now and then, for some reason, the one the director's looking for. And I would please impart to anyone out there, take it easy with your self judgment, and
Yeah.
ask questions.
Yeah.
Be a living question mark for the process and the art of this business. It's not your idea. You can take the David Mamet route and say the actor's job is to simply read what's on the script and do nothing more. But if you see something valuable in there, or if you do get a job, ask the director, what were you thinking with this? Or ask the writer, send a line, take the time to actually write an email to the writer, Oh, it's Axel so and so or whoever, figure out where they are. It's not hard. Their agents listed online. Write them a note. Hey, I read the script. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot. It's super exciting to be involved. What was your thought process on this? And because it will benefit you in the end to assimilate as much information as you can or that you'd like to have about other people's ideas that you
Yeah.
now have been entrusted with to be a part of this process. It's super exciting.
I
It's
love
hard to
that because just for the people who are listening and watching, I think that that's such a good tip. Even if you're not involved in the project, it's a great way to begin to build relationships on social media. Social media is the great equalizer, right? So you can find out who the writer is on the morning show or one of the writers or whatever it is, whatever your favorite show happens to be, you can find out who those people are and reach out to them. And I love that you're reaching out to them in a way that is not just a compliment. I love your show. I love this episode, whatever it was. It's what was your thought process? So you're opening a dialogue. You're giving them the opportunity to have a dialogue with you. Whether they take it or not, okay. But you have done what you can do to make a real connection with them. And again, I think that that's what this conversation is about. How do we make real connections, real authentic connections, so that you're building real relationships, not transactional relationships?
That's good. Yeah. Very smart.
I think
Yeah.
it's really important. And there's small things that you can do. Sure, they take time. But, everybody has their favorite shows, right? If you just take, a half an hour out of every day, to just who did this, who did that. If you have IMDb Pro, if you have Crew United, you're good. You can figure these things out. It's
Mhm.
not rocket science. And then just
Yeah.
reaching out, even if it's to 2, 3 people a day, that's a lot. That adds up. That's cumulative over the year.
Yeah. Spot on. Spot on. That's
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
and sure, it requires a lot of time and self-sacrifice, but when you end up in places where you're actually working and on the job, I can't, I don't want to sound self-righteous, but some of the people you're talking about complaining, I've been on sets with some big actors and hear complaints about the most petty shit. Or like, "Wait,
Yeah.
what? The trailer, the copy, the what?" Sure, maybe we all complain, maybe
What,
was
the
but at
toilet's
the end
not
of the d
working in your
yeah,
trailer?
it's like
You can't use
right,
the other one?
at the look look at the big picture. Again, it's not about you, it's this crazy collective that you get to pass through for that moment, and for the actors who have not yet had that experience, and that's what you're aiming for, again, it sounds preachy, I don't know the answer, just keep going, and
Yeah.
I I feel like I'm sure there's 1,000 quotes, if not more, out there about the fine line between real life and film and real life and cinema, if you're not working and you're freaking out and you feel like you have some sense of self-doubt or that people are judging you or whatever, volunteer your time. Try volunteering for a day because, it's like Granny Sargent used to say, no matter how bad you have it, somebody else has it worse. And you don't have to look beyond your own 3 city blocks that you live in to find somebody who has it worse. And if you're really
Yeah.
down and out, because it's easy to be down and out. I'm not belittling or I'm certainly not taking it lightly that people, actors, well, human beings, we have depression. We go through bouts of loneliness and, disenfranchisement, whatever it is that we're plagued with. But really, you can find
Self-doubt, imposter
yeah, and
syndrome, all
self-doubt,
of
of
that,
course,
sure.
because it is a harsh business, and most of the time, the people who are telling you that you're not good enough, of course, they have their own set of fears and worries and concerns, and I have felt that doing something completely not related to acting and not caring so much, like, about the world of acting means that you can find a way to make yourself feel connected to real life by volunteering your time or just trying to do good deeds, small, basic good deeds for other people, you know? And that's not, I know this sounds like a tangent, but it really isn't. It's relative in the sense that you don't have to do little good deeds for other people to feel good about yourself or bigger about yourself. It happens automatically that if you put
Mhm.
yourself out there and try to be the most positive version of yourself, in spite of whatever adversity you're going through, you'll see that it's contagious. You
It's like
can
a smile, right? Try not to smile back at someone who's smiling at you. I mean,
right?
it's almost impossible. For me anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's infectious for sure.
It's interesting you say that because this is another thing that I think that is super important for actors is to find something else that they're passionate about, that they find self-worth in, and that they can also it also can be used as a way to make other connections, right? So
Mm.
again, like I love my dog. I post pictures about my dog. If anybody
I know.
follows me, they know that I love my dog, right? If
Right.
you know me a little bit better, you know I love my son even more. And I may not post a ton of pictures about my son because he's a grown man and I respect his privacy. But these are points where we can come together as human beings, not as because actors, I think actors are often made to feel like, you just go wait in that corner until we call you. But as soon as you're on set, you are the god, especially here in Germany. I think it's less so in America, but they just
Yeah.
they're so mm, I don't want to say pandering because that has such a negative connotation to it. But they're really treating actors in a way. It's like, whoa, I don't need you to carry my umbrella. I can hold my own umbrella. I can,
Oh, in
things like
Germany.
that. Where right in
Yeah.
Germany, there's a lot of like really making you feel like a star when you're on set, and I feel very uncomfortable with that. I just want to
Mhm.
be part of this team. And yet when we're not on set, if we're looking for work, then it's all of a sudden like, "Get away from me, you parasite," you know? "Don't bother me with I know you want a job." All that kind of crap, right? So I think when we can find ways to connect as human beings, that puts us on the same level, as the
Mhm.
Germans say, at eye level, which is a great expression.
Auf dem gleichen Ebene.
And yeah, and I think it's super important to find the things. Like, whenever I meet someone new, I don't immediately start talking about the film industry. I start talking about other things. What have you seen lately? Any movies? Do you have kids? Are you married? Have you been anywhere? Trying to find the place where I could, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a mom too. So, where can we get into that together? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I was lucky enough to enter the business, with coming from a very different background than I guess what I'm doing, as not a studied actor, being a hardcore academic. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of pressure in that as well to succeed and put forth particular material or whatever. But I think if we do go with the old axiom, variety is the spice of life, or I don't know, if axiom's the correct word, but the old saying, of course, it's what informs you. It's what makes you beautiful, and when you're not working, that's what I mean kinda by, like, volunteering. You don't even have to go it's not like you have to go and push old people around in a wheelchair around the block or something. It's more like just putting yourself out there and engaging with life, what happens, and trying to find the comedy and even the dark situations because there are a few of them that
Yeah.
happen in Pankow, Weidensee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful though. I like how
Yeah.
you put that for sure.
So as we wrap up this episode, I want to ask you, it's called Act Bold. What was a time that you acted bold in your life and it doesn't good, bad, into whatever, and that changed the course of your life or that had a strong impact on your life? I
Wow.
think you do it all the time, but I want to spend.
Okay, if I sure, there are a couple moments. One of them is probably writing a speech in the 8th grade, being the honor student, and I didn't like being the honor student because, you get picked on to do things, and I can remember I got into I got into a school, particularly notable school in for high school in the States after giving a speech to my 8th grade class, and, and I remember having to sit in the row of boys, and I got back, and when I sat down after my speech, and this is mind you, this is way, way back when, I remember one kid on one side of me goes, "You're going to a fag school, you fuck." And I was like, "Oh."
Oh
And
God.
the kid on the other side of me goes, "We're gonna kick your ass after school." And I was like, "Do it, I'm ready." And I wasn't. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I
Right.
was terrified a lot of the
Yeah.
time in school. But, it's a shitty anecdote, but there are so many times where people are gonna try and put you down. There's so many times where you're gonna feel like shit. And apropos to this
Yeah.
conversation about picking yourself back up and going and acting bold, it's find your sense of self-worth. You're worth it. It's so
Oh,
boring. If we
yeah.
cast everybody to look the same in movies, we wouldn't have movies. The crazy awkward toothed people, the non-bleached teeth, the whatever it is, like there is such a variety of humanity out there that makes us so cool in this business about creating stories for each other. And probably, I would say the single boldest move that I'm grateful for is probably in Amsterdam when I gave a flower to a girl who was so beautiful that she terrified me. And
Mm.
as a man of many words, it's probably the only time when I couldn't quite say anything. And I ran away. I literally ran away. And she ran after me and gave me her number. And I waited those 3 days, those cliche 3 or 4 days before calling her. And it sounds simple, but for me at that time in life, it wasn't simple. And it was a bold move, which brought me to Europe, which gave me beautiful kids, which helped me say yes to so many things that I never would have tried out in life. And I think, try saying yes, even when you get rejected and you say yes again and again and again. And you're going to find yourself in situations which are crazy and terrifying and beautiful and perfect. So that's
Yeah,
my wrap
that
up
is
story.
so beautiful. And I just want to again recap on the points to pull out of that for the listeners and the viewers. So it was doing something in spite of being afraid, putting yourself out there, so being vulnerable, telling someone even without words what you wanted, and then having the courage to see it through. I
Yeah,
love that, Seamus. That's so beautiful.
I'm lucky.
Thank you so much for being
Hey,
on
thank you.
my podcast. I
Really.
really appreciate it. How can
Yeah, this
people
is a
find
gift.
you if you would like them to find you?
Oh, well, there's this thing called Google, which I guess is out there somewhere.
I've heard about it, but
Yeah,
I haven't had the chance to
I have
look it up yet. Would you
emails
like
out
people
there.
to follow you on Insta or anything like that?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's rack up my
Okay. So give us your
1,000.
Insta handle. Yeah.
It's actually just my first name. It's Seumas. It's the old Irish spelling. It's just me. And I think, at the moment, I think I have a mustache and an Adidas sweatshirt on looking like a Terry Richardson photograph or
Okay.
something. I'm not
I'll
sure.
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah.
Seamus, thank you so, so much.
Hey,
This was
thank
so
you for your
much
time.
fun.
Big love, my
Yes.
friend. This is great.
All right. All right. I hope you got a lot out of that. For the listeners and the viewers, you all stay your bold and beautiful self, and I will see you next time. There we go.